Hi everyone, it's Amber from The Sensible Mama, and today I'm doing part 3 in a 4-part series about miscarriage. This is the video that I've been most excited to make because this topic is the one that I've gotten the most number of questions about from people on forums that I've participated in, from people who have responded to these videos, and just from friends of mine who have been through this experience themselves. The topic today is how do you talk to a woman who has gone through a miscarriage? Sadly, the only people who really know how to communicate well with another woman who has had a miscarriage is someone who has also had a miscarriage. So today I want to spend some time talking about a few things that you might want to know if you need to talk to someone who has been through a miscarriage or is currently going through one. I want you to know that I understand that it is hard to be in your shoes too. The truth is, it can be difficult to know what to say. So what I want to go over today is basically 3 main things. The first one is what not to say to someone who has been through a miscarriage. The second thing I want to do is tell you of some things that maybe you should say when someone is going through a miscarriage. And finally, I'll go over what you should do or say if you are currently pregnant and you know someone who is going through a miscarriage. So let me start off by talking about what you should absolutely not say to a woman who is going through a miscarriage. Now, I want to say something up front. I think that everyone understands that it is difficult to know what to say to someone who is in this situation. And I think every person fundamentally understands that you mean well no matter what you say. So if you've said any of these things in the past, I want you to understand that it's okay. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like anyone held this against you. I just want you to know that some of these things can be hurtful even when they had the very best intention. The first one and the absolute worst one is, don't worry, you'll get pregnant again real soon. I felt like every person that I knew said that to me. And you might be wondering why that isn't something you should say. After all, it sounds really positive and encouraging, right? But the problem is, when you go through a miscarriage, the last thing on your mind is having a future baby. In fact, a lot of women, myself included, are sometimes asking themselves if they even want to put themselves out there again and risk having to go through the pain all over again. And even if they are definitely planning on trying to conceive again, they definitely don't want to be thinking about a future baby at this time. The thing is, a woman who is grieving her miscarriage wants to think about that baby. It often feels like everyone around you wants you to hurry up and forget about this loss and move on to happier and brighter feelings. And the truth is, you will get there one day, but there has to be a short period of time, or maybe a long period of time, depending on how quickly you move through the grief process, where you need to think about the baby that was lost. And you're simply not ready to move on from the idea and the memory of that child right away. So the worst thing you can do is try to convince a grieving mom that she should start thinking about a future child instead of taking time to grieve the one that she lost. The second one you shouldn't say is everything happens for a reason. Although that might be true, and although that might sound encouraging, for many, many women, that is just not a helpful thing at all to hear. You don't really need that shoved in your face right after you go through a miscarriage. It's really hard actually to put a finger on what it is about that phrase that hurts so bad when you're going through a miscarriage. So I'm not even going to try because I think it just won't make any sense. But just know that it doesn't feel good when you say that, and it's just something that you should avoid saying. The third one is, don't worry, you will love the next baby so much more because of this loss. While that may be true, it's just not something that you want to hear. I can definitely say, now that I have my own little boy, that I love him and appreciate him and feel blessed by him so much more because I know the pain of losing a child. But when people said that to me before I had my take-home baby in my hands, it just felt like a slap in the face. You want to scream at that person and say, I would have loved and appreciated this baby. You can't possibly tell me that I'll somehow magically love the next one so much more because of this terrible anguish that I'm going through right now. You see, a woman who's had a miscarriage already knows that she's gonna love her next baby. She doesn't need you to remind her of that. She knows it, so just don't say that. The next one is, do not ever say, I know exactly how you feel, and then go on to tell a story about your pet who died, or a friend who passed away, or a relative. I would never try to imply that another person's grief is less than the grief of a woman who is going through a miscarriage. But what I will say is that there is something fundamentally different about losing a child versus losing a pet or even a family member. You see, the natural order of things is that we are supposed to say goodbye to our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, and the people who are older than us. Saying goodbye to friends can be a little different because you don't expect that to happen. And losing a friend is very painful, absolutely. But it's not the same as losing a family member, and it's definitely not the same as losing a baby. I don't have to explain to you why losing a pet is not the same thing. But I will say, even though a lot of us say that our pets are our family, that's certainly something that I say, it is not the same. Don't say that. The thing is, we are not designed to have to say goodbye to our children. We are not wired to deal with our children departing from us instead of us departing from them. So when you say things like, I totally know how you feel because I lost my grandmother last year, I think the person that you're talking to is going to have to really, really fight back the urge to roll their eyes. And then they have to feel guilty about discounting your grief, and they don't want to feel that way. But the fact is, if you tell a woman who has lost a baby through miscarriage or stillbirth or whatever it may be, that you understand because you have experienced a different kind of loss, it's just not going to help them the way that you think it will. And the last thing I want to say that you should not say to a woman going through a miscarriage is to tell her that the pain will go away. I think that the only people who can say that and have it actually be helpful are people who have been through a miscarriage before. Once you've been through it, you really can relate to another woman who's going through a miscarriage. You can tell her your story, you can tell her the pain that you went through, and then you can tell her that it does get better. But unfortunately, if you're someone who's not been through a miscarriage, it sounds disingenuous. Even though you're saying it with totally the best intentions, even with tears in your eyes and a shaky voice, the way the woman hears it who's been through the miscarriage is flippant, not compassionate, superficial. And the fact of it is, I don't really think that a woman wants to know that the pain is going to go away. And as long as your friend is doing that in a healthy way and not in a self-destructive way, then you really should give your friend the time that she needs to do that. So that was kind of a lot of things that you should not say. Now, in an effort to be a little bit more helpful, I'd like to talk to you about some things that maybe you should say. One of the most awesome things that someone said to me after my miscarriage was, I'm happy to listen to anything that you want to tell me about your baby. She asked me if the baby had a name, if I knew the gender, if I had told my parents yet. And although that might seem unintuitive, like why do you want to ask this person to drudge up all of these feelings about their baby? For me, it was actually really helpful. It made me feel like this person wanted to remember my child and didn't want to just sweep that loss under the rug. And I think it's pretty understandable why women don't ask these women to talk about their babies. We have this natural sense that we should help people move on and not try to help them stay in the present and deal with this grief for even longer. But it really, really can be a positive thing, and it can go such a long way if you just say to your friend, I'm here and I would love to hear anything you want to tell me about the baby. Another great thing to say to a friend who's had a miscarriage is that you will never forget their baby and that you know they won't either. Oh, what it would have meant to me if someone would have said that during my loss. That was all I wanted, was just for someone to reaffirm to me that I was not going to forget this baby and that they weren't going to either. Don't belabor the point, just keep it short and sweet. I will never forget this baby that you lost, and I know you won't either. Another great thing you can say that I think not many of us think about is, do you need me to share the news with anyone in your life? Speaking about your loss can be incredibly painful, and so many women just don't tell anyone about what happened. So just ask your friend, hey, is there anybody who needs to know about your loss that I can go speak to on your behalf? Chances are they might tell you no. But it is a beautiful gesture, and for those women who know they need to tell people about their loss, but they're absolutely dreading it, it could be a really big deal. The last thing is more of an action than it is something that you say, and that is just bring food. Don't tell them you're going to bring food. Don't ask if there's anything you can bring. Just bring food. I can't even remember what my husband and I ate during those first few days after my miscarriage. In fact, I'm not even sure if we did eat. I know we had to eat at some point, but it couldn't have been often, and we lost a lot of weight. If anyone had asked me if they could bring food over to me, I would have absolutely not accepted. I don't know if it's a pride thing or if it's something about not wanting to inconvenience people, but I would have just said no. I would have put on a smile and said, I'm doing fine, thank you. But if someone had showed up to my door with a few nights of cooked dinners for me, I would have been so thankful. It doesn't have to be a big deal. Just bring food so that you know that this person is eating. If you're someone who is in that situation where you are currently pregnant and someone you know is going through a miscarriage, you might want to tune in because I'm going to try to help you with that situation. When you're pregnant and a friend goes through a loss, it's hard to know if that person wants to see you. For some women, it can be really hard to see another pregnant woman. What I can definitely tell you is if that woman has a hard time seeing you because it's painful, she definitely doesn't want to admit that to you. Because on top of all the pain that she's experiencing, she's also very aware of the fact that this is a joyful time for you, and she doesn't want to ruin your joy by bringing you down. So instead, she'll probably just stuff her feelings down and keep coming around you anyway, even if it's painful. So I really think that the best thing you can do in your situation is for you to initiate the conversation. An example of something good to say would be something like, I'm here for you and I want to talk to you whenever you want to talk. And if you decide you want to speak to me, I will be there in an instant. But I also know that maybe you need some space right now, and that's understandable. So I'm just going to wait for your call. And I want you to know that I won't be hurt or insulted if I don't hear from you for a while. And I hope that you won't be hurt or insulted if you don't hear from me either. Just know that I'm thinking about you every day, and I'm hoping that you feel better soon, and I'm yearning for you to reach out to me, and I will be very happy when you do. But until then, I want to give you your space. If you communicate that to your friend, you take that burden of guilt off of her. You make it so that she doesn't have to feel obligated to call you or come around you. You create a space in which it's just okay for her to need to not see you for a little while until she's dealt with her grief a little bit better. Alright guys, so that's really all that I have for this video. Next week is my last video in this series, and I'm going to be talking about something that's a lot more fun, which is trying to conceive after miscarriage. It's going to be a light and positive video that's really just meant to encourage women who might be starting on that path now. So I hope you'll join me next week. In the meantime, I hope you have a great weekend and a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.